Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And we're going to talk baseball. Yeah, you ready? I don't know who's playing at 1 today or 7. Wait a minute. We're not doing any of that because they still don't have a plan in place. And, you know, how many of you are optimistic? How many of you are pessimistic? As we start our show today, I want you to be calling me. We're going to talk about the plan. We're going to talk about the lack of implementation of a plan. I want to say good morning to amazing Met fan Andrea, Beerman, Corona, Lenny, Taco, Guess Brooks, and others. I'm hoping that I'll get some phone calls from you guys and get your opinion on where we stand and where we go from here. You know, I was thinking as we started talking about the players and the owners, a part of me always thought there will not be a season. And I still believe there may not be a season. In fact, now that it's June the 4th, let's be realistic. If they're saying that players have to have 3 weeks to get ready, or 4, and we want to start around the 1st of July, that means we need to start today. We need to start today or tomorrow. And we're not even close to starting today or tomorrow. We've talked about the owners and their demands, if you will, or their needs. And we talked about the players and their demands, if you will, and their needs. And how there is not just this crack between them, there is a chasm between them. You know, the other sports just don't seem to have this problem. And maybe it's because the union is so strong. Maybe it's because there's a lack of trust. Maybe it's a combination of many things. Also, remember, baseball is the only sport whose season, the beginning of it, fell smack at the beginning of Corona. But this is no longer about Corona. What I'm reading this morning is that the health issues have been agreed upon. The universal DH has been agreed upon. Scheduling can be done. What it boils down to is do, re, mi. It's become a money issue. It was a money issue. And guess what? It will be a money issue. And in 1994, when I was the ripe old age of really 29, I remember when baseball went on strike. And the Expos, Les Expos, they were killing it. They had this great team in Canada, and their fans were excited. Baseball was doing great. We just had expansion. We were getting ready to go into an expanded playoff, and they strike. And if you recall that demise of the national pastime, I think if there was any question about which sport in the United States after that strike was number one, there was no question afterwards. Football took over. Football surpassed baseball. It surpassed it not only reality, but in the fantasy realm. I mean, think about it. Think about all of the fantasy shows that feature baseball that are canceled, cut, slashed, done away with, eliminated, whatever the words you want to use, after July 4th. After July 4th, fantasy sports as we know it on most, not our network, but on most is eliminated. And we know that's really when it gets the most interesting. It gets the most interesting when baseball is getting to the trade deadline or baseball is getting to the playoffs. And by that time, you turn on your radio, you go to chat rooms. Again, not ours, but the baseball chat has stopped. It was like the day the music died, July 4th. And now this year we're going to start the season, or maybe not. So here you go. Arnie, Lenny, Andrea, Beerman, Clarona, Taco, all of you listening on podcast, here's the ultimate question. If you had to place a bet, if you had to, had a gun held to your head or your kid's head, and you were told you got to place a bet, one way or the other. Do you bet there will be or do you bet there won't be a season? And you got to make that choice today. Then I'm going to say no season. I'm going to say no season. In fact, I almost want to say I'm going to go off the air doing podcasts until we know what's going on with baseball. Because frankly, I'm getting a little disgusted with the whole thing. How about you? I mean, here we are. We've had over 100,000 people die as a result of Corona. We've had the racial incident go on in Minnesota. And it's time that we stop being selfish and we start considering how our actions may affect others. But we as a nation need a leadership to help us see that. And baseball, I have said it. Baseball is in such a great posturing position to set a precedent, to get out ahead of the curve, and instead we're like the possum that died in the middle of the road, and we're just laying there. I mean, we have the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to come together, we're going to play. But frankly, I don't see where we're any further along today than we were 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, we had nothing. Yeah, they've agreed to certain things, but the bottom line is the bottom line. And until we know the bottom line has been agreed to. And you know another thing. These prima donnas. Think about a baseball player making $20 million a year. I'm not even going to the 30 or 35 plateau. A baseball player making $20 million or $15 million a year. That's your average superstar, right? How many people in America, well, let's rephrase the question. How long does it take the average worker in America to earn $15 million? Now, I know the baseball player has been given certain opportunities and gifts and should be thankful that they are gifted and talented in that way. But it's also a responsibility that goes along with the ability. With responsibility and ability, they're intertwined. And I don't care what you say. You're a role model. Face it, whether you want it, whether you sign up for it, that's the way it is when you're making $15 million a year. People are looking at you. It goes with the territory. Just face it. How many people in America, how long does it take them to earn $15 million? So let's say you're an average Joe or Jane making $50,000 a year. It takes 20 years to earn $1 million. 15 times that, well, that tells me it takes 300 years to make $15 million. And I don't see many 300-year-olds walking around the streets these days. And that's if you make 50 grand a year. If you make 100 grand a year, well, you can shorten that, right, to 15 years. 15 years. It's 150 years. My math's wrong. 150 years. So if you want to live to be 150 and you can make 100,000 a year, you can earn your 15 million. My point being, baseball players, come on. And the bottom line is the bottom line. The owners are going to ultimately win one way or another. If you get your money this year and the owners don't have money to pay free agents, where does that leave Mookie Betts next year? When his contract with the Dodgers, where he never, interestingly enough, never has played a game and may not. When his contract is up, and he's no longer a Dodger and he's on the free agent market, do you really think next year he's going to make $30 million a year? No. No is the answer. Because no owner, I don't think it's collusion. I think no owner is going to say, I have the money to pay that kind of salary. I tell you who's a big winner here. Think about the contracts that Trout signed. Think about the contracts that Manny Machado signed, that Bryce Harper signed a year or so ago in the $300, $400 million range. Players, those contracts, I don't think are coming around anytime soon. And I think if you don't get off the schneid and get going with the season, you're going to lose fan base like you've never lost it before. You've already lost a lot of young fans to other sports. Now you're talking about the fans like me who pay the tickets, who pay for DirecTV extra season ticket. We pay those kind of monies. The 50-year-old group, we pay a lot of those bills. And if we stop paying those bills, I said this on a show not long ago. I do want to repeat it. And I listen to all kinds of radio. I read all kinds of articles. Listen to people talk about players they've met. Look, I've been very fortunate. I've rubbed elbows with Derek Jeter. I've rubbed elbows with Derek Jeter's girlfriend. I don't talk about that much, but I have. I've had conversations with players on the Yankees from the 50s. Whitey Ford. Got pictures with him. 60s. Bobby Richardson, Tony Kubek. Anywhere in between. Don Larson. Johnny Blanchard. The 70s group. Goose Gossage, who I actually got a base hit up the middle off of at my fantasy camp in 1998 on a 90-plus fastball. That's right. But I've had conversations with the Goose, Dick Michael, Mickey Rivers, Bucky Dent. I know these people. They're my friends. And it was a different climate. Today's ball player, very unaccessible. I remember going to spring training and fantasy camps back in the 90s and early 2000s. And you can go right up to a player before a spring training game and have a brief conversation, sign an autograph, pat him on the back, whatever. Those days are gone. And it's a result of the prima donna effect. I went back to a Yankee game in the late 2000s. Hotels are roped off. I know there's safety issues. I get it. But it's no longer a fan-friendly sport. And that's what made baseball the national pastime. It was fan-friendly. It were players who you could relate to. And now that's tough to find. So will there be a season? Will there not be a season? I'm going to vote no. And hope that I'm wrong. What do you think? What do you think? I think it's going to be telling in the next week or so. I think if we don't have, I thought we'd have an agreement by June 1. Let's do this. Let's see where we're on June 15. If we don't have an agreement June 15, I don't see how we can have a season. The owners want a postseason. They want an expanded postseason. They don't want round 2 or round 3 of Corona to come back. And I already see in some states where cases are up again. Reported cases are up again. And you want to avoid that from infiltrating into your clubhouses, into your ball players. So if a deal is not struck by June 15, you are really putting baseball in a situation where I don't see how you can have more than a 50 or 60 game season, and the players are saying, we don't want that, we're not going to play. I don't know. You give me a prorated salary if I'm making $10 million a year, and I can make $3 million a year, I'm going to go play because